All right, so now our mud here is dry, and we're going to maybe knock some of the ridges off with a putty knife. And then I've got several different sanders here. I've got standard kind of wall sander, where if you go to the drywall section of any of your big box stores, you'll find something like this and the sandpaper to go with it. You might also find one of these round ones. These are meant to be put on a pole or a broomstick. Sanding sponges are great for some fine work. I really like these for kind of blending in around the outer edges. So I'm going to show you how all that works now. So for this part, you want to be kind of careful, because if you get too aggressive, you can actually take too big of a chip of the mud out of the wall, and you'll have to go back and patch later. So be gentle, take your time. Anything you can knock off with the putty knife is something you don't have to sand off. So the sanding sponge, like I said, I tend to use around the exterior of the patch, because this is really good for smoothing and fairing without making a lot of dust. These are good for flattening a surface, especially if you've got ripples or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and use this a little bit in the center. Normally I would use this with a pole, but since it's a small patch and I'm sitting here in a confined space, I'm just going to use it by hand. I'm going to move kind of slow, because I don't want to put a ton of dust in the air, since my daughter's room isn't really masked right now. If you were just sanding away in a room that had been empty, you put on a pole and go to town. You'll want to make sure you put a mask on so you're not getting the dust. This is a special formula of drywall mud that actually is a low dust formula. You can get that kind. It says right on the bucket, low dust. The sanding dust kind of just falls out of the air very easily. So we're going to So you'll want to be careful using this for two reasons. We didn't put the mud on all that thick, and if you get too aggressive, you will sand right down to your paper from your tape. The other thing is, you don't want to sand through any of the paint on the wall, at least not much, because this latex is covering potentially lead-based paint, and you never want to sand that. So we're going to try to be as gentle as possible, try not to damage the latex covering. If you're afraid that you may have lead-based paint or that you can't do that, then take precautions where you can have a controlled environment and use HEPA filtration on your vacuum or whatever you're going to use to clean up, so that you're not spreading lead-based paint dust throughout your home. I'm going to use small circles around the fine area here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and clean up this dust and see where we're at. All right, I've got this all sanded down. It's fairly nice and smooth. I've got a little bit of that pocking that I need to touch up, and I'm just going to do that with a thin layer. I've got some mud already mixed up here, just like I showed you before, mixed with some water, thinned it out. And then I'm going to put some at the base of this here, at the base of the outlet, so that's filled in. So this patch, I'm keeping the knife closer to 90, actually not at 90, but closer to it. That makes a nice thin coating. It takes most of the mud back off, but it just leaves enough mud where the pock marks are to fill them in. So along the base here, I got it smoothed out. There's a big dip that was going on here, so it's faired out all the way across the base and up along the side. So once this is dry, I'll be able to smooth this out with the sanding block, and it will look great. The stuff around the outlet box, that will chisel off with a screwdriver. Just make sure your power is off so you're not jamming a screwdriver into a live outlet. But if you just put the screwdriver over any of the chunks and give it a tap, they'll break off cleanly at the box, and you'll have no further issues. Up here you can see where I filled in some of the pock marks. And up here you can see where things fared out. They fared out really nice. So once this is dry, I'm going to go ahead and get some primer on it. Then I'll paint it with the remaining wall paint that I have. And this will look like $1,000,000. You won't be able to tell it's here. All right, this is the conclusion of the invasive wall repair and electrical issue video series. We covered a number of things, including on how to replace a outlet and patch a wall, especially on an old plaster wall. And we may cover stuff in the future with sheetrock only, just to show you the difference. In the meantime, if you have questions about this process, please feel free to leave comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and like our videos, and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of our next one. This is Chris with Honest Home Inspection. We are at home with Honest Home with you. Ow! Perhaps you suggest using a screwdriver or a large coin. I use too small of a coin.